the ancient walled city of Diyarbakir in southeastern Turkey, not far from the border with Iraq. This has always been a place of conflict, and today is no exception. While U.S. and Kurdish troops tighten their control over rich Iraqi oil fields, Turkey, which denied access to coalition forces, is plotting its next moves. This sensitive frontier region, where invading armies have come and gone over the centuries, may once again find itself on the front lines.
This is Mike Greenspan in Diyarbakir for HDNet's World Report. Today, this city of 2 million is the regional capital of southeastern Turkey, an area populated mostly by the people who call themselves Kurds. For years, they've been struggling for recognition of their national identity and greater control over their own destiny. Some have even tried by force to carve out a state of their own. For Turkey, with its numerous ethnic and religious groups, such aspirations are a source of deep concern. Now, with war raging in nearby Iraq, both Kurds and Turks are casting a wary eye southward, wondering if the fighting there will ignite renewed conflict here.
The war in Iraq is on everyone's mind. Everyone has an opinion.
When war will start, all people know like the American people.
Oradaki olayları takip ediyoruz.
He says the U.S. is doing wrong, raising its flag over Iraq. They said they were there to free Iraq, not to control it. He prays that this will end soon. The soldiers on all sides have families. He thinks America is doing wrong, but it is God who knows best. The Kurds have lived in this region for almost 4,000 years. But it was the defeat of the Ottoman Empire in the First World War that turned them into an issue, dividing them among Armenia, Iraq, Iran, Syria, and Turkey. Mustafa Kemal Atatürk's 1922 revolution created the modern Republic of Turkey, with Ankara as its capital. He demanded that all citizens, no matter what their origins, call themselves Turks. Among the Kurds, this approach met stiff resistance. The government dubbed them Mountain Turks, banning their language and customs. But they remained what they always had been. All I know, he says, is that my father and his father and his father before him were all Kurds. All Kurds are Muslims. They follow the rules of their religion. They are good people. Kurds comprise about 20% of Turkey's population, but still struggle for recognition. During the 1980s and 90s, many demanded a state of their own. The Kurdish Workers' Party, or PKK, launched guerrilla actions against Turkish troops and property. Turkey hit back hard. The fighting took at least 15,000 lives, and perhaps many thousands more. For now, at least, the terror is gone. Diyarbakir is a thriving center of Kurdish life, under the watchful eyes of Turkish security forces. It's an energetic place, filled with hard-working people and old-fashioned values. He loved to watch the shoemakers when he was a child, and later decided to open a shop of his own. If you know what you're doing and you really enjoy it, then you can make good shoes. The covered bazaar boasts an incredible range of sights and sounds. The Kurds are famous for their hospitality and warmth. Almost anything can be found here, even a breed of cat unique to this region. Diyarbakir has a split personality. Behind its outward dynamism lays an economy that lags far behind the rest of Turkey. Charming alleys lead into a world of dismal poverty. Some blame this situation on Turkish discrimination. Others blame it on the U.S. initiative in Iraq.
We just say no money have. What do you say? They have no money have. What shall I do? He said money take. Food I buy. That was no money. No business. Business no.
Beyond the old city walls, conditions are better. Built up over the last 30 years, the new city is a place of new opportunities where young Kurds seek and often find a chance to improve their lives. This carpet workshop is one of many small business initiatives. Children begin working here in their early teens. It's a sight that may offend Western eyes, but for many of these young people, it's the only way to get by. She was only 11 when her father died, she says, and she had to leave school to work. This is how she helps support her family. In places like this, dreams are woven. One day, she hopes, she'll teach others to do this work.
The government in Ankara has promised significant economic development for the people of this region, and some of the outward trappings are already in place. Indeed, this new shopping mall in Diyarbakir is a far cry from the stalls of the open bazaar in the old city just down the street. On the other hand, people here are telling us that for everything that has changed and everything that has improved, much more has not.
Unemployment is rampant, above 50% according to some sources. It's a problem compounded by increasing numbers of villagers moving into town in search of work, and made worse by the tense relations between Kurds and Turks. Unfortunately, the military has been managing this region for the last 20 years, making it hard to spur development. The situation was starting to improve, but the war in Iraq brought this to a halt. Now the Turkish government, along with the UN and the European Union, wants to reverse the trend by creating modern infrastructures, encouraging foreign investment, and working with local entrepreneurs.
Self-confidence is really, I think, one of the big problems here, because I believe that violence kills, also self-confidence of people usually, and it also kills the entrepreneur skills of people. So we try to make these people to feel that they can do, they can achieve. This is really important.
While it looks toward the future, Diyarbakir remains rooted in the past. These biblical surroundings recall the time when this fertile region gave rise to modern civilization. The waters of the Tigris flow southward toward Iraq, and so do the thoughts of the Kurds. The Kurds in northern Iraq are fighting alongside the U.S. Both Kurds and Iraqis are suffering. People here feel their fate is linked to that of their fellow Muslims across the border. Before prayers at Diyarbakir's mosques, they review current events and trade opinions. Despite Saddam Hussein's brutality toward the Kurds of Iraq, his troops massacred some 5,000 Kurds with poison gas in 1988, Turkish Kurds seem almost universally opposed to Western intervention in a Muslim nation.
We don't like that because we human being. We don't like to kill the people, and we don't like the war. We like the friendship, come between together. See, we don't like the war.
After prayers, they briefly raised their voices, shouting, "Down with America! Down with Bush!" But a massive police presence put a speedy end to the demonstration. In the small villages around Diyarbakir, life moves at its own pace. About 1,000 Kurds live here, split among 5 large family clans, growing grapes and wheat, and raising livestock.
These people have been working this land for as long as any of them can remember, and they believe their ancestors have been living here even longer than that. Generation after generation of farmers, village people, held together by history, tradition, and by Islam.
It's a harsh existence. But for whatever they lack, the villagers enjoy a rich social fabric and the kind of warmth that's hard to find in the city. Our camera upsets the daily routine. The villagers say we're the first tourists, as they put it, ever to set foot here. For the children, we're a tourist attraction.
What's your name?
The village lifestyle has hardly changed in centuries. Everybody works hard. Everybody has a role to play. The division of labor is strictly traditional. And so is the cuisine. The family unit anchors their lives. It's their source of strength and a matter of tradition. He loves the village life. Everybody is good to one another. He prays that the people of the village will continue to be good Muslims. But the young people in Derabuyu village, like young people everywhere, dream of spreading their wings. 28-year-old Sebyatullah Ojal sees his future elsewhere.
Türkiye Cumhuriyeti'nde iyi olmayan bir şeydir.
The old people, he says, grew up without any education. They accepted their way of life. He wanted to study at the university and become a teacher, but the law was changed and he couldn't go. Now, he says, he'll leave the village and look for work in town. The city is where the action is, where the money is. This is where modern Kurds plug into the future. At the same time, they haven't lost touch with their traditions. In an effort to placate the Kurds, Turkey is allowing them a greater measure of ethnic expression. These days, it's legal to play Kurdish music. But music is still the only Kurdish language programming permitted on Diyarbakir's local TV station, and only love songs at that. Any other messages promise trouble.
Ceza vardı, yani mahkeme cezasına kapama süresi vardı, 1 yıl, 2 yıl.
When they played political songs, the authorities shut them down for 5 or 6 months. Now at least, they're only fined. In recent years, government restrictions have eased, but many Kurds suspect that the reforms have less to do with accepting them than they do with gaining acceptance to the European Union, which Turkey desperately wants to join. New laws permit Kurdish language lessons in government schools, but the classroom curriculum still fails to include them. Turkey doesn't want its Kurds to seek links with those across its borders.
The subject of Kurdish nationhood isn't mentioned much openly here these days, and certainly not in front of a camera. With the PKK guerrillas either eliminated or driven underground, people here are extremely careful when it comes to speaking their mind on politics. In the past, they say, there were dire consequences for those who dared to openly complain about Turkish rule or demand increased rights for the Kurds. For its part, the Turkish government now promises reform. But while they won't say so on the record, off the record, government officials admit that change has been slow in coming.
In the past, say human rights activists, there was harsh treatment for Kurds who raised their voices. Thousands, they say, were picked up and tortured by security forces. And some simply disappeared.
Toplam 24 üyemiz, başkanımız, yöneticimiz.
From 1986 through 1997, he says, 24 of his organization's members were murdered by unknown individuals. The killers were never found. In some cases, neither were the bodies. Respect for human rights, he says, was improving in recent years, until the events of 9/11 and the war in Iraq changed the rules of the game. It's like this all over the world, he says. Governments are now putting security before human rights, even in the United States. The war in Iraq has created a real dilemma for Turkey. While moving slowly toward greater democracy, it faces the possibility that Kurdish gains in oil-rich northern Iraq will lead to a renewal of demands for an independent Kurdish state, including the Kurdish areas of Turkey.
One Turkish government official put it this way: the United States, he said, has opened Pandora's box. Nothing in our region will ever be the same following coalition involvement in Iraq. Neither will the United Nations, NATO, and the European Union. Only after the war is over, he said, will its true impact on us be revealed.
While Turkey remains suspicious of its Kurds, many of them are actually leaving their ideology behind, trading in village hillsides for urban high-rises. 8-year-old Helin Lachin could be from any city, anywhere on earth. It's no easier to pry her away from her favorite show than any other child her age. Her parents left their villages more than 2 decades ago, finding financial success at a Diyarbakır textile factory, along with a new way of life.
Ben deseler şimdi giderim. Dün de çocuğumla konuştuk. Diyor anne diyor sana bir çiftlik hazır.
I was young when I came to the city, she says. Everything was colorful. It all looked pink to me. Hüseyin Lachin now helps manage a Diyarbakır wedding hall. City life has been good to him too, but
Bence bu 3 çocuğun yetişmesi için, yani benim kendi açımda şehirde yetişmesi
it was a lot easier to raise children in the city because both parents could work and the city has a lot to offer. But village life is better for health and morality. There's no stress there. It's cleaner. There's more oxygen in the air. Still, this Kurdish family, like many others, has made its choice, leaving most of the old traditions behind in favor of modern life.
Şehir hayatı mesela kadınların biraz daha.
When it comes to women, there's a big difference. Village women cannot make decisions or make money. Their husbands do that. Here, wives can decide for themselves. The Lachin family straddles 2 worlds. Playing the Kurdish saz keeps 22-year-old Veysal in touch with his Kurdish roots. But at college, he's studying to become a teacher of Turkish.
dersin, çiğ mahı dersin,
He sees his future not in a Kurdish state, but as a full and equal Kurdish citizen of Turkey.
Sorulacak olursa gelecekteki durumun şimdikinden farklı olacağını zannetmiyorum.
Some things never change, but he dreams that others will. He hopes for the day that Turkey will become more democratic. Changing attitudes among Turkey's Kurds may explain why the country's one and only Kurdish political party shrank from 18 seats in parliament to none. The Diyarbakir party chief complains about prejudicial election laws, but admits that the problem runs deeper.
Resmi ideoloji var. Bu resmi ideoloji
For over 80 years, he says, the Turks have waged a campaign to persuade the Kurds to assimilate. Many Kurds now think they are Turks. It's still a risk to call yourself a Kurd. Not everyone can take that risk. Not far from here, Kurdish troops in northern Iraq are playing a pivotal role in the coalition's campaign. As they gain strength and territory there, the Kurds of Turkey again find their loyalties called into question.
Bu problem Cumhuriyet döneminden bu yana var olan bir problem.
The problem is nothing new. It began with the creation of the Turkish Republic, but that doesn't mean it can't be solved. The Kurds in Turkey are different from those living in Iraq, he says. The Kurds in Turkey are looking towards Europe. The Kurds in Iraq are looking towards the Middle East.
Just 80 years old, the Turkish Republic was molded from the remains of a once mighty empire. A nation still in flux, Turkey now hopes for membership in the European community, and with it, a huge economic windfall. On the verge of what may be a very different tomorrow, Turkey's Kurds are now faced with a dilemma: whether to finally and fully buy into the Turkish nation, or to continue the struggle for a nation of their own, even if the price is war. The outcome of the conflict in Iraq may have a real bearing on their decision. In Diyarbakir, Turkey, I'm Mike Greenspan for HDNet's World Report.